Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Lindsay and I'm going to tell you about a book that I just read on the vagus nerve. If you have any issues with autoimmunity or gut issues, depression, fatigue, anxiety, brain fog, immunity, all of these conditions are affected by the health and the tone of your vagus nerve of your nervous system. He says in this book, if you are often overwhelmed by stress, it is a major sign that your vagus nerve is impaired. What do you do about your vagus nerve? How do you repair it? That's what this book is about, and I'm going to sum it up. So because I have had so many problems on that list that I just read off for you, I've wanted to read this book for a long time. I finally read it, and I'm going to summarize it for you because it is a long one. It's dense, and I'm going to condense it and tell you everything you need to know so you don't have to read it, including exercises you can do for your nervous system and your vagus nerve to bring more harmony into the body, calm your nervous system down, get it activated. This will just generally increase the health of your body. So this book is written by Dr. Nawaz Habib, and he is a chiropractor and a functional medicine doctor. Functional medicine is something that I have been so interested in for a really long time. A lot of the doctors that are thought leaders that I follow are functional medicine doctors. And I think the best way to describe functional medicine is that I see it as the meeting point, or like the middle point between alternative holistic health and traditional mainstream medicine. So it brings these two together, and it's really the next wave of Western medicine, in my opinion. So this guy is a functional medicine practitioner, and he is primarily concerned with the gut microbiome and the vagus nerve of the nervous system. So just to give you an introduction, the vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's the part that calms you down. You have the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight branch of the nervous system, and then you have the parasympathetic system, which is the relaxation branch of the nervous system. So the vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic relaxation branch of the nervous system, and doctors didn't really know a whole lot about it until just recently. It's kind of like the microbiome. We're just starting to learn about how important it is. But this vagus nerve actually connects to all of the major organs in your abdomen and your chest. It connects the cardiovascular system, digestive system, respiratory system, immune system, and the detoxification system, because it's linked to all these organs in your body. So if that nerve is out of shape, basically, all of the organs in your body are going to be out of whack. And that's where you get this imbalance and where we get chronic diseases, because it is a state of imbalance in your body. The author compares the vagus nerve to being the conductor of the orchestra of the body, which I think is a really cool analogy. So the thing to really know about this is that basically the vagus nerve is the communication system between your organs and your brain that tells your body to calm down. And if that communication system is out of whack, your body is going to be out of balance, because you need a good balance of activation and relaxation. So because this vagus nerve is doing all the communication between the brain and the gut, and the gut and the brain, and actually there's 6 times, I think it's 6 or more times as many nerve fibers going from the gut up the vagus nerve to the brain as going back down. So what's going on in your body is sending so much more information up to your brain than your brain is going down. So that just tells you, even just for brain health, you need to make sure that not only are your organs in good shape, but the communication system of the vagus nerve has to be in good shape too. So there are some exercises to make the vagus nerve stronger, which is what we'll be talking about a little bit later. He says that if you are often overwhelmed by stress, this is a major sign that your vagus nerve is impaired. So that's me. That's the whole reason that I've been looking into this book. And the whole concept of the vagus nerve is for this ability to regulate my stress. And I had been hearing for so long that the vagus nerve was involved in this. So I wanted to learn about this. So he goes into some of the things that can lead to poor vagal tone and the reason that you have some of these chronic health issues. Like, what causes a weak vagus nerve? Well, there are a number of different factors. One is a poor gut microbiome. If the microbiome in your gut is imbalanced, they call it dysbiosis. Those bacteria are actually making chemicals that create neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are basically the signals that allow the communication to happen from the vagus nerve. So you need those neurotransmitters, and if the gut microbiome isn't making them properly, the vagus nerve can't function. So autoimmune conditions are the fastest growing health condition in North America, and this is because of our lifestyles, chronic stress, poor diets, and complete misunderstanding, like lack of understanding of what the problem is and how our bodies actually work holistically. So autoimmune conditions are basically dysfunctional immune system problems, and the largest concentration of immune cells are in our gut. If the gut is dysfunctional and has a lot of inflammation, if these repeated signals of inflammation are coming from our gut over a long period of time, we're actually training the vagus nerve to downregulate and basically shut off because there's too much inflammatory information traveling up the vagus nerve. So that's how the vagus nerve kind of gets dysfunctional and gets weaker over time. So what is the underlying issue for all of these chronic issues, autoimmune diseases, depression, anxiety, fatigue, digestive problems, brain fog? It's inflammation. And he says that this inflammation is caused by a dysfunctional gut microbiome. But while you're dealing with the root cause of the dysfunctional microbiome, the vagus nerve can also help if you're strengthening your vagus nerve by reducing or mitigating the amount of damage that's being done, by improving the signaling back and forth to limit the inflammation. So basically what he's saying is you do need to work on the tone of your vagus nerve, but you have to get to the root cause. The vagus nerve can only do so much. It can help, but it can only do so much to limit the damage of the root cause, which is the inflammation. And that is usually caused by dysfunctional gut microbiome. But this is the interesting part, is that the vagus nerve can have a profound effect on energy levels, digestion, and pain. Another reason is called paradoxical breathing. This means that you're breathing from your chest rather than from your abdomen. The best and healthiest way to breathe, the proper way to breathe, is from your abdomen. And we're all trained to breathe from our chest, but it actually sends signals of stress to our brain when we breathe that way. So the most relaxing way to breathe is to breathe from the belly. Another cause is major stressors. So major stressors in your life decrease the activity of the vagus nerve, and they will increase inflammation. So I know that that's what was happening for me. For a lot of people with autoimmune issues, it just tends to pop up after a period of really big stress. So stress has a big effect on the body, and it can decrease your vagal tone and increase inflammation, essentially. So he says that for some people, just doing vagus nerve toning is going to have huge improvements. But for other people, it's a good first step with these other healthy habits to put into your routine. It's all about forming healthy habits. So he talks about heart rate variability, and it is actually a measurement of how your vagus nerve, how well that tone is. It's something that they can scientifically measure. And there are a few different products that you can use to actually measure your heart rate variability. And I thought it was really interesting because I have one of them. It's called the HeartMath Inner Balance. And I got it in 2015 and I still use it today. It's a really good tool to teach you how to meditate, and basically like it will give you a graph in real time telling you, are you in a deep meditative state, or are you kind of like thinking too much and not really in a meditative state, and it'll tell you in real time. So it's good feedback to know if you're kind of like meditating properly or effectively, and that's why I use it. But it's this little sensor, but I have a whole other video on this sensor and how it's been helping me, but it does measure heart rate variability. And you basically clip it on your ear and it measures your heart rate variability and, in effect, your vagal tone. So I'm going to link that video below in case you're interested, because this is a really cool gadget and it's been really helpful for me, even just for meditation. There's also a way to measure your vagal tone by taking a heart rate before and after you do a little bit of exercise. There's a specific formula, and I've made another video about that too. It's a quick video and it'll tell you how to measure how quickly your recovery, and hence what is your heart rate variability, and hence how is your vagal tone. So I'll link that video below as well. So some practices that you can do to train your vagal tone and increase the strength of your vagus nerve. First thing he says is breathing. So he talks about the top athletes. And this is something that when you get into like sports psychology, they all know this, that like breathing is really important in athletic fitness. And these athletes all have like a very toned vagus nerve, because the key is to be able to keep calm in a period of like high stress. And they are trained to be able to do that. And it's this deep breathing pattern that they do. So it's slow and deep breathing, which is really good for vagal tone, really good for heart rate variability, and belly breathing is really good. Also, he talks about Wim Hof. Wim Hof has a breathing technique along with ice baths that is really, really good for training vagal tone. I will be doing a review of Wim Hof pretty soon because I have used his method before. It's really interesting. He's known as the Iceman. He's like the Scandinavian guy who's always jumping into like iced over rivers and swimming under ice, and then taking hikes in snowy mountains with no clothes on, just shorts. I mean, he does like crazy stuff, and he has a really, really cool personality. He's really fun. It's also really interesting because they have done scientific studies on Wim Hof and his method, and shown there is a huge increase in his immune system. He's able to control his immune system with his mind and his techniques. It's really fascinating. But I will link that video below for Wim Hof. Some other tips for increasing vagal tone is breathing through the nose. If you breathe through the nose, it's actually very calming to your nervous system. It sends messages of relaxation. He says that if you're somebody who breathes through their mouth when they're sleeping, taping your mouth shut, he actually does this. He tapes his mouth shut and it forces you to breathe through your nose, which sends signals to your body of relaxation while you're sleeping. So he also says that sleeping on your right side or your left side, but preferably your right side, is more calming to your nervous system. Do not sleep on your back. A lot of these tips that he gave are like very general, like wellness tips. It just so happens that they are also really good for sending signals to your nervous system to train it to relax, to strengthen that vagus nerve. But he also says light therapy is a really good one. Getting outside, getting the right kind of light, getting the blue light in the morning and the red light in the evening, and avoiding blue lights in the evening is really essential. You want to get blue light blockers, which are these glasses that block out the lights on your screens. You don't want to watch screens, but if you have to, get these special glasses that block out the blue light. Social connection is really good for down regulating the nervous system and increasing calm. Don't eat late at night. He says cold exposure is really good. Long term, it teaches you how to breathe when you're under the stress of super cold, which is really good for the vagus nerve. But cold therapy is also good for lowering inflammation. One thing that I love to do is when I go to the spa and they have like hot and cold pools. Oh, so amazing. Jumping from like the hot pool to the cold pool and getting that like shock in the system. When you're in it, you have to like breathe really deeply, and that breathing, it like resets your nervous system, and like I just feel so amazing after doing that. And maybe this is one reason why. Another thing that I've noticed that has like always been something that I felt so good afterwards, but he lists it in this book too. He says chanting. Chanting is really good for the vagus nerve. It's activating that vagus nerve because there's actually some nerve fibers in your throat. So when you're chanting, like doing like ohms or chanting mantras, not only are you breathing deeply, but you're activating the nerves in your throat, which are sending signals to the vagus nerve. So chanting, singing is really good for the nervous system. Every time I do it, I notice like I am so calm. Haven't you noticed that? Like, have you ever done like kirtan or like chanting for long periods of time? It's so calming. I remember I used to go to this Buddhist center when I was living in Asia, and we would chant these mantras and sutras like sometimes all night, but even just 1 hour of chanting this long mantra that like I don't understand, but I just like, I'm saying it like it, sometimes it's repetitive, but even just 1 hour of chanting a repetitive mantra over and over again, it is so calming. It is very meditative. And now I know that it's actually the vibration in the throat and the breathing that is activating that calmness in your vagus nerve and your nervous system. So he lists the obvious, but I still want to mention, he lists yoga and Pilates. These are exercises that teach the body to breathe while you're under stress. So it's really good for that vagus nerve. Mindfulness and meditation is really good for focus. Laughter and social connection also has a calming effect. Also, listening to music and singing along to music. One thing that I thought was so interesting he said in this book, he was talking about music therapy. And there was actually a scientific study that said that it was Mozart's K448 Sonata. The study showed that that song decreased activity of seizures in children, which I think is amazing. Another tip is to clean your room before you go to sleep, because a messy, cluttered place will send kind of stressful signals subconsciously to you, and it'll make it hard for you to sleep. He also lists intermittent fasting. So this is like time restricted eating. So for example, you might only eat between the hours of noon to 8 p.m. And this is something that I do, and it increases your heart rate variability, which is linked to your vagus nerve. So they've shown that scientifically. Exercise improves your parasympathetic nerve activity as well. Basically what it's doing is you are raising your heart rate through the exercise, and then when you're relaxing, you're teaching your body how to recover after stress, which is strengthening your parasympathetic nerve system. So sunlight, I mentioned before with light therapy, sunlight is directly related to cellular activity and your heart rate variability. So you should get out, try to get outside multiple times per day, as much as possible basically. Omega-3, the kind that has EPA and DHA in high levels, are really good. They're actually essential for nerve functioning. And taking omega-3s has been shown to increase heart rate variability in obese children. Really interesting. This is probably the most interesting part. So for people who have depression and low mood, they have been shown to have low heart rate variability. And interestingly, antidepressants are shown to make heart rate variability even worse. So another thing that's really good for improving your nervous system vagal tone is acupuncture and also acupressure. I'm not as familiar with acupressure, but I've done a lot of acupuncture and I love it. It's really, really helpful. If you're already living a pretty healthy lifestyle, it can be the thing to put you over the edge and tip you into this balanced state. It's really amazing. It's something that it's not going to be helpful if you live a really unhealthy lifestyle. It's not really going to make much of a difference. But if you are putting in the effort with lifestyle changes and you're still not seeing any improvements, acupuncture can really help tip the scales. It's really, really beneficial. And I go to an actual acupuncture college essentially, and they have student teachers that I go to, which is very, very good and inexpensive. I think I pay $30 per visit. So if you live in the LA area or you are in a big city, look up acupuncture college or training center and see if they have any interns that will work with you at the university or the college or the training center. It's usually cheaper and more affordable if your insurance isn't going to pay for it. Because unfortunately, usually at this point, insurance only pays if there's pain involved for acupuncture. So I highly recommend acupuncture. So I just gave you a big list of all these practices that are going to help you calm your nervous system and increase the strength of your vagus nerve. And all the rest of the stuff in that book, it was very dense, very scientific, probably not interesting for the average person because it goes so deep into the biology of how the vagus nerve works. And basically all you need to know is what I've already listed. But it's definitely a priority to strengthen the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming part, through all of these practices to increase the balance in your body, to increase the communication system, like the conductor of the orchestra of the body, and increase that communication between your abdominal and chest organs and your brain so that your body's just functioning in this more balanced, harmonious state. And that's really the key when it comes to these more chronic issues, autoimmune diseases, anxiety, depression, brain fog. It's all inflammation related and lifestyle related, and the gut microbiome. It's all about making changes to your lifestyle, and that's what this channel is about. So if you want more related videos on this topic, please subscribe and like the video because this does help this video get out to other people. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.